so important to lean on him in the most, like that at the top of the list. And so I started making the list, and I went down, and I was like, okay, family, friends, and then I started going, and I started thinking about like the older services. I remember I was talking to my mom about this not too long ago, about preachers when they start busting on things, little things that you wouldn't think that matter, but they do, but you don't understand. And when you're a little kid, like for instance, when I was younger, I would have there were preachers talk a lot against Xbox and like playing video games, and how there's just such a spirit behind it. And don't get me wrong, behind a lot of things that there are spirits, but the main I just started to ponder that in my mind, like why is it that they talk so much against that? Like what was the primary reason behind that? Because it's got to be more than just there's just a spirit behind it. It's not just the spirit that's behind it. It's that it takes away, like it becomes, like preachers said before, it becomes like a demigod, becomes like your God. But it also take that away. It just takes the time that you would spend with God. It just takes that time away. When I used to play video games, I'd play for hours and hours on end. I mean, days would go by, I'd spend 8 or 9 hours on Xbox, and that's 65% of your day basically. You sleep the other 30%, and you have, you know what I mean? It's just like that's all your time, and then you don't spend any time with the Lord, and then you start thinking about like the way that they started. I really started to ponder that, like the way they bust movies, and it's not, and I'm not saying that they're okay or they're not okay. That's not my job, but I was just thinking about the background, about why they do that. Why is it so important for them? Why can't we just spend all of our time watching movies? And it's not about what we do, it's about what it takes our time away from, and it takes our time away from God. And that's not what He wants. He wants us to be able to constantly be able to go to Him. And I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to spend 12 hours a day talking to Him. Sometimes you can't even spend 2 hours a day because you're so busy, and you have work, and you have so much to do. But I challenge you guys, all of you, please tonight, go and make a list. And go and make a list, not just about those big things like work, your job, your family, but start making like little things like leisure activities. Go down as low as to the things that you waste your time with. Like little things that, like for me, like I'll just be sitting on the couch and I'll be like on Facebook or on my phone, not even on Facebook, but and an hour will go by, and I didn't even realize an hour goes by. You start marking those little things down, and just kind of make a list, and then start carrying that list around, and keep adding to that, and then just think about that. Think about all the, and it's not like a list to make you feel bad. It's just a list, or almost a remembrance list, to constantly remind you, wow, I didn't spend enough time today with God, and that spiritual connection is going to be broken because I'm not plugged in with God. And that's kind of where the devil kind of gets in, and he gets that little hand in. And then when that little hand is able to get bigger and bigger, then he can open that door, and then the floodgates open. And that's like for me, especially after like things like yesterday, I had a Bible study with my sister, and I felt like the devil was just really fighting me after those kind of things, like after something that I tried to just have a nice little Bible study with her, and she texted me afterwards, and she said how much it meant to her, but above that, how much it was really working on her heart. And like things like that is just like, wow, like praise the Lord, give Him all the glory for that. But the devil hates that kind of a thing, and if you don't kind of surrender yourself after that kind of a thing, like I can't even imagine like pastors and preachers and evangelists, like when after a service, what they have to go through. I mean, I've talked to my mom about my grandpa, who was a pastor, and I mean, after Sundays, it was probably like a really rough time for the pastors, because they pour out their heart, and I mean, they're just a vessel for what the Lord has to say, and His Spirit's poured out, and then the devil's just going to be constantly fighting him, and you have to be ready. And even on like little things, like the devil, all of Satan's, it says in the Bible that all of hell's angels tremble when a believer gets on their knees. So imagine how much it trembles. Like imagine how much they hate it right now, that we're all sitting around and we're all talking about him right now. Well, I mean, imagine how much they're trembling right now, just thinking about that. And imagine how mad they get. And that just imagine how much harder they're going to fight you. And I mean, that's what it is and kind of entails to be a believer. It's like almost the higher up on the spiritual walk that you get, the harder it's going to get, but the better it's going to get, and the Lord wants you to get, He wants you to keep climbing the ladder. And I had this thing that I was going to read you guys, but it was just like my own notes, and it was, if your spiritual walk isn't increasing, then it's decreasing. And you can hear it stated other ways. If you're not moving forward, then you're declining backwards. If you aren't going up the mountain, you're going down. And you could go on, but they all mean the exact same thing. And when Brother Jason said it, that way, I think it was Sunday, where you're climbing a ladder, and then, he used to be a painter, and something gets in your way, and then you got to move the ladder.